Okay, so to start off, we decided that it'd be kind of fun to go over a translation I made of Hebrews 11:1. Yes, I am that full of myself to do that. Um, but it was not something I was looking to do. It kind of it came to me as I was playing with my Torah toy, aka archery, because bows and arrows are symbolic of Torah. Okay. Um, so, anyways, so let's maybe read what I've come up with, and then maybe we can talk about it. Okay. I know so a verse like this, you got to be really careful, right? Because it's a big deal for a lot of people.
Okay, so let's start by reading what comes to us on regularly.
Oh, King James. Okay, we can do King James.
Yeah.
Um, since you bring up, you want to read the King James. So you can read the King James from this one. Just read the strikeout and don't do the bold, right?
Right. Okay. Let's see. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's the This is the verse that we're talking about here.
Yes.
Hebrews 11, verse 1.
Now, I do believe the Joseph Smith translation, or better put, New Translation, as Yahweh called it, is better than the King James, and it was a good step. Now, I know this sounds awfully conceited, but to add more to or continue what Joseph Smith started, but Joseph Smith himself stated that the JST was not finished, right? So,
Um, it's an interesting thing that not even that even Yeshua said that those who believe in me, greater works than you have seen me do, they shall do. So, God, if God is not jealous, Joseph Smith should not be, and we should not be jealous for him.
correct. Um, yes, and Joseph Smith knew it's going to happen that more is going to come out. He I do believe the reason he did the ones that he focused on is because those are the ones that were most important for the time that he was there. Uh,
Right.
even maybe even to help us even today.
They
Um,
they help you to see through the Protestant error.
yes, and there's a lot of them. Um, that even in this post that I'm working on, that I came with this before I started working on this post. Anyways, well, the basic idea I've been refining it to because I decided to share it in the post, so I've been doing some refinements. But that JSTs actually, if you look at the chiasms with the JST, I think supports the JSTs. But anyways, and I've shown that in some other posts. It just the chiasms don't really work without them. So, anyways, um, so Zach, will you read JST Hebrews 11:1 as the new translation states it? So, don't read the crossouts and read the bolts, right?
Can you make the text bigger?
Yes, I can. Is that good?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Wait, where?
Right here. Read it as King James, so read the
Okay.
crossouts, but not the bolts.
Just say read the text.
We just read. I
Oh
read.
yeah, I'm sorry. My bad. You're right. Read the new translation, which is don't read the crossouts and read the bolts. Sorry.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Good checking. Sorry.
A faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Now, I do like that assurance there, and it is there's justification for it from the Greek. Okay, but before we look at the Greek, I do think it's important to look at just the definition of assurance, okay? Because I mean, maybe it's because I'm not a word guy like Ben, okay? Sometimes I have made assumptions about what words means that aren't exactly true. If nothing else, this is because of me, okay?
All
Um,
right.
but I do find it fascinating that the word assurance, as I kind of put in the post, that it, and even in the glyph, that it's full trust and confidence. Okay. Now let's
Yes.
look at the definitions to see if it supports that. And then I'll read it. So the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, assurance. The act of assuring, okay, that's helpful. Making a declaration of terms or furnish grounds of confidence. As I trusted his assurances. So it has to be confidence and trust, or the act of furnishing any ground of full confidence. Full
Yep.
confidence. So definition two, firm persuasion, meaning you've been fully persuaded. Full confidence or trust.
Right.
Freedom from any doubt because you fully trust it. Certain expectations. You have no doubt it's going to happen because you have trust.
Yeah, the expectation is certain, the utmost certainty.
Yeah. Ultimate or utmost certainty. It's like you're reading the definition there, Ben.
I was.
Oh, okay. Firmness of mind. I mean, these things just reminds me of lectures on faith, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Undoubting steadiness
Yeah, you want to finish it up, Ben?
and intrepidity. The excess of boldness or impudence, and I don't think that's what this is referring to. So that definition isn't particularly good for
Oh, which one?
the excess of boldness, impudence.
Okay, so the reason I put it is because when you know it, you are bold about it.
But when it comes to but impudence is actually it carries with it the connotation of disrespect to authority.
Okay, yeah, and that's not what's going on. So I will get rid of that. Thank you for that help there.
Yeah.
You just saw I got rid of it, right?
Yep. So freedom from excessive modesty, timidity, or bashfulness. And that's something that's actually uh this is one of the things that I've never understood about Christians is they think in order to be humble, you have to put yourself down incessantly.
No, and that's kind of
Not
a
humility. You're not actually acknowledging things as they are.
yeah.
Because if God is just Lord over a bunch of nothings, then what is he really? Are you really glorifying God by demeaning yourself?
No. Um, the reason I do it occasionally is a little more humor and try to relax people about me.
Right.
And also to help bring out a point, because humor can help them remember things. So,
Right. And
you,
my simple point is that that is not true humility.
correct. I agree.
True
I agree.
humility is simply accepting the mind and will of Yahweh.
Correct. That's why Moses is. I don't remember how it is exactly.
It's stated in the book of Deuteronomy that Moses is the meekest of men.
Yeah, which is willing to accept Yahweh's ways, right?
Yep. And the meek are those who are humbly obedient.
Yes. And the meekest, was it among the meekest?
No, he was the meekest of men, not among. He was the meekest.
Okay. And the society that he was in, I completely agree with that. In fact, that's why he was called and not somebody else to be the
Right.
slash mighty and strong one, right?
Yes. And now the thing is that you don't find uh, you, Moses doesn't really, you don't you don't really see a whole lot of places where Moses is putting himself down. He takes responsibility for his people,
Sure.
but that's not the same thing as putting yourself down.
Correct. But actually, him taking responsibilities for his people is actually following Torah. So,
Yes. Well, I wasn't criticizing that.
oh no, I'm just letting other people who
Yeah,
are not as
yeah.
familiar with Torah know. So,
Yes, the father of the household takes responsibility for all in his household.
yeah, his children, or in this case with Moses, followers.
Right. Yeah, so that's the thing is that points to another thing, which can be another sidetrack, but it's the children are followers. It's not just when the Bible talks about children, it's not just talking about literally children.
Correct.
It's not talking about seed stains.
Okay, moving on.
So, okay, so the freedom from excessive modesty, timidity, or bashfulness, laudable confidence. Laudable confidence.
So, what's laudable mean?
Laudable means praiseworthy.
Oh, okay.
Conviction. No, no, actually, conviction. I was just reading the next thing down.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I wasn't. I was.
Yeah,
I just found your
praiseworthy.
side.
Laudable is praiseworthy.
Okay, I was
Conviction.
just adding notes there to make it more understandable for people. If nothing else, for myself.
So
Anyway.
now conviction. That's a very important part of assurance. Um, the reason why so many people today are afraid to stand on their convictions is because they lack the assurance that their life is what Yahweh wants it to be. Therefore,
Yeah.
they cannot stand on conviction.
So, and that goes on what is taught in Lectures on Faith 6. Right?
Yes. And in theology, full confidence of one's interest in Christ and of final salvation. Um, So this is full confidence in one's interest in Christ. Now, that's an interesting way to put it, because because it's true. Because there's definitely a lot of truth to that idea, is that we do have interest in Christ. That's the only way we have interest, by the way,
Hmm.
because when we have we take what we are to Him, and He makes more of it. With of course by our obedience. We aid in that process by obeying the mind and will of Yahweh.
Correct.
But
Um,
Yahweh gives us the interest. We don't make the interest.
I think it's a combo effort on that, but
Okay.
um, so if it's not a combo, um, it's Calvinism.
That's true. That's true.
So it's a mixture. It's both.
Yeah. But yeah, but the first part of salvation is we can't get on merit. The first part of the our justification is not based on merit.
Uh, correct. Um,
So
it's
this is the first part of salvation. Our justification is not on merit. And so this is where our interest in Yeshua comes in. Because our justification is not merit based.
correct. Um, okay. So, if you're done, let's maybe go on to the next part.
Yeah, let's go on.
Okay. So, uh, So that's the assurance. Oh yeah, we looked at the definition. Let's go look at the Greek now. Okay. Which
Oh yeah, I like Greek. It's a
I I can't read it on my own. That's why I go to Bible Hub a
yeah.
lot.
No, I'm being more than I'm being facetious.
Okay. Anyways, so the interlinear, you can kind of tell where it is, and it is interesting that on the interlinear, they agree with Joseph Smith, or better put, the new translation of assurance that over substance, right there,
Yeah.
link. Um, and so if people argue with that one, they don't know what they're talking about, right? So,
Yes. The change from substance to assurance is now I'm wondering if it's possible that you could have gotten substance from that word.
yes, it is one of the definitions. And as I was working on this, and putting the Greek word, there is a portion in it that I copied over that kind of shows some justification for substance.
Hmm.
But I do think assurance is better because without the context, substance can be read multiple ways.
Yes, and so this gets down to the point that the translation is only as good as the translator.
Correct. Zach, if you're willing, let's look at the Greek. Uh, I don't know how to say that. That's that
Let's
one
see.
right there.
Trying to get hypostasis.
Okay. I know I can say Greek 5287.
Yeah.
So Zach, you want to kind of read this for us?
Hypostasis, substance, assurance, confidence, essence, reality, meaning, literally and underlying. Confidence, assurance, a giving substance or reality to, or a guaranteeing substance, reality again.
So let me say this real quick. Pause you 1 second. Uh, this is showing the substance of reality, which is what the assurance is. So with this context, I can see how there's justification for doing substance, right? But
Yes. It's
uh,
not it's not it's not a it's not an overtly false translation.
correct.
It's
Um,
just not as good as it could be.
correct. Now, I will also on this one will grant that 1611 English is a little different than 1830 English and even 2024 English, right? And so that could
It's great. It's a little different from 1830s English, and it's a lot different from 2020s English.
yes. So perhaps back in 1611 they knew what substance was, and so it was fine. But in today's world, I do think assurance is much better than substance. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so moving on, Zach. I think you're right here.
The word origin, derived from Greek pres, preposition,
The Greek
uh-huh,
preposition hupo.
I'm going to move it
hupo,
down. Sorry.
which means under, and the verb esteme, meaning to stand.
So this kind of goes along with the imagery with standing. You stand when you're confident in something.
You wouldn't stand under a ceiling that you weren't confident was going to stay up.
Right, right. And then just, you know, even in statements from Yeshua in the New Testament, he told people to stand up straight.
Yes.
That's confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't want people putting themselves down for his aggrandizement.
Right. So, I mean, even some of these word definitions and origins goes along with teaching us imagery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go on, Zach.
Um, word studies. Hypostasis, properly to possess standing under a guaranteed agreement, title deed. Uh, title to a promise or property, i.e., a legitimate claim, because
Shoot,
it literally is under a legal standing.
that is so cool. When you think about the word study under this word, this Greek word that we have in the King James is substance, and that we have in the New Translation is assurance. And when you take that in relation to the rest of the chapter,
It's beautiful. I think it even opens up the chapter, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, I will admit I need to be better at understanding these words. And I've always enjoyed looking at 1828 dictionary and um, the word definitions in the original language of the manuscripts that we have. It's very helpful and insightful.
Yeah, you learn so much as you start to get into the words,
Yeah.
which is probably why a lot of people don't want you to get into the words.
Yes, they so I have come across how one way that the elites control us is controlling what we think the word definitions are.
Yep.
Okay, Zach, continue.
So this word studies uh section,
Mm-hmm.
all this, this guaranteed agreement or promise promise property or legitimate claims, like
Mm-hmm.
sounds like Torah or like
Yeah, it does.
Yahweh's covenant.
It is the covenant made with Abraham, made with the patriarchs, reinstituted with Moses.
Hmm.
And also a lot of this imagery that's going along with the part that you read so far also goes along with like trust, legitimate claim, right? And then guaranteed agreement. I really think those goes along with trust also, but I do like your insight how it also goes along with the covenant of Torah, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's yeah, right here. Entitling someone to what is guaranteed under the particular agreement.
Yep.
For the believer, hypostasis is the Lord's guarantee to fulfill the faith he imbibes. Indeed, we are only entitled to what God grants faith for.
Okay, so that little bit right there sounds a little Calvinist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe I should take that part off. Anyways, I'm not trying to hide
Because
anything.
what we are entitled to is the blessings as we obey the law of the covenant. We're entitled to the blessings of obedience to the law and the covenant, and of our because and the reason why we're entitled is because our obedience shows our faith, according to James chapter 2.
Correct. I agree with that. And I probably just maybe got a little copy paste hungry there. Um,
Yeah, so what
but
we
I'm not hiding anything because I am giving people the links to go read everything that's there. So I'm just trying to more highlight things that's
helpful to
helpful to what I'm bringing out, right?
right. And my point is that Calvinist ideal on the back end there is not necessarily helpful.
Yeah. No, I removed it.
Yeah, so and it's not even true, because in as much as we show our faith in Yeshua HaMashiach, we can get he has by his own inimitable word guaranteed us the blessings.
Correct. Um, so the big thing about this word, assurance, I would almost say, and Ben, you tell me if I'm correct, 'cause you're better with words than I am. This is like strong trust, right?
Mhm. This is like when people in ancient Israel would do a land covenant with one another. They would slaughter animals and sacrifice to gods, to either God or their gods, as the case may be, because not everybody in the ancient Israel area were monotheists.
Right.
But they would slaughter animals as sacrifice, as assurance that the other party to whom they were covenanting this land had ownership of that land.
Correct. As in,
And that's actually what you see when it's said when Abraham, the covenant, when God makes covenant with Abraham, it's a scene just like that. Abraham has laid the animals out in sacrifice, and God himself walks between the sacrificed animals, accepting the sacrifice, covenanting the land to Abraham.
correct. Correct. And I think it's to show an image to help you remember and trust it.
Yep. And exactly. And it's this particular thing that Paul, or if you believe that Paul wrote Hebrews, then it's Paul. If you don't, the author of Hebrews is pointing to when he talks about Abraham. Well, but Paul himself in his own letters, in those letters that are demonstrably his, states that the promise was to Abraham by faith.
Correct. Correct.
Um, and so this is the assurance that he's talking about.
Or, as I like to put, trust. But
Yeah,
and maybe this is me, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think assurance is a higher trust. But
but the other thing about the assurance is that it is stated in word and cemented in ritual.
yeah, yes,
Just like when, just like when you, just like when you get money from the bank on loan, they can agree to give you the money, but you don't get the money until you've done the ritual of signing the paperwork.
sure, sure. That makes sense. That makes sense. Which also goes along the part with the diligence. So I think I'm hearing from you, assurance has an aspect of doing in it, right?
Yes, yes. It's cemented in what you do.
Which goes along how I always define faith, trust, and diligence. And diligence is the doing part, right? So I guess
Yep.
that's kind of summed up in one word,
Mm-hmm.
assurance. So that, thank you. That's okay.
Yeah,
So
there you go. That's my amateur biblical scholarship coming up.
well, I think it's good. Um, Amateur just means you're not paid, and when you're paid, your motivations is
Your
tied to where your
motivations can be
money's coming from.
questioned. Your motivations can be questioned at the moment that you start receiving pay
Yeah.
to expound truth, as it were.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So there's not any big controversy with that word. At least I hope there's not. I would imagine, though, there is a big controversy with G 4229, which um, the King James and the New Translation and this interlinear um, puts it as things.
mhm.
Now, if you don't know what faith is, okay, sure. I think if anything, this shows their ignorance or them trying to change things, right?
Right.
But let's go look at that word. Uh,
Greek.
40, oh, it's this one right here, deeds. So, um, Ben, you want to read this one since Ben read the last one?
Exact. Yeah. Okay. So the word is pragma, which is actually the root word for pragmatic,
Okay.
which is to mean practical or having to do with things of practicality.
Which is doing. Practical has to be doing with doing, right?
And so here we have thing, affair, business, deed. All of these are things related to a covenant.
Okay. And I see a good number of them having to do with action. But yeah, I can see with the covenant also.
Meaning a thing done. Meaning a thing done. A deed. Action, a matter, an affair. All actions derived, okay, the word origin is derived from the word praso, meaning to do or to practice. Usage in the New Testament, pragma generally refers to a matter or affair, often with a focus on practical or concrete aspects, i.e., you don't get much more concrete than act. Say you're angry at somebody, you don't get much more concrete than acting that out by punching them in the face. So that would be the pragmatic expression of your anger, the pragma expression of your anger.
Which is the action part of it, right?
Yes. So let's see. It can denote it can also denote a business transaction, or in the case of Abraham, a sacrifice accepted and a covenant made.
Sure, sure. I think to be a little more specific, it'd be him offering the sacrifice.
Yes, him offering the sacrifice. That you see, this is the other side of what I was talking about when I said that the assurance is um, spoken in word, cemented in ritual.
Sure.
It's there's um, the sacrifices will be coming back. They are a part of the covenant.
Right. And it's showing to, in the sense of the bank and the lawyers and the judge later, if you decide to break it, that you said you would do this, right?
Right.
It is so the ceremony is showing the world what you
Your
promised.
intent.
Yeah.
Just like while I don't believe that you have to go out and get a marriage license, I do believe that before one has sex, they should perform a ceremony showing that they are committed to this person for the rest of their life and beyond, should that be the case.
Correct. Now, with that ceremony, let me just add one thing because I agree. It doesn't have to be with a government. Because who married Nephi? Anyway,
Right.
um,
Did they? I don't know if they would have been allowed to go back to Jerusalem just to do the marriages.
yeah, they didn't. But it's a ceremony to the world, or as much as the world you can do to show what you promised that
Mhm.
you would do, which is happens with marriage so many because you already promised to get married because the engagement, right?
Yep.
Now this is just going through the formal act and showing the world.
Yes, that's what the pragma is about. It's through going, going through the action that states, that shows that your faith, that your hope and your faith is genuine.
Now, let me add something like this with baptism. Now, the Book of Mormon teaches, contrary to Restoration churches, including the LDS Brigham one, that first you make a covenant, then you do the ceremony to show that you did that, which is
Just
going
like
along with the definition of ceremony. It's just telling people what you already promised to do.
just like going back to our example with Abraham. The Lord and Abraham had entered into covenant previously. But when Abraham lays out the animals in the sacrifice to Yahweh, in accordance with Yahweh's will and command, he shows the faith. He shows that he believes Yahweh's word is good.
Yeah. Yep.
And he conforms his life to it, and it is enough.
Yeah. Because it's coming under his covering that makes us justified if we do it sincerely.
Yeah.
So, do you want to keep reading the rest of?
Okay, so let's see. Concrete, it can denote a business transaction, a legal matter, or a deed. The term emphasizes the tangible or actionable nature of the subject in question. Cultural and historical background. In the Greco-Roman world, pragma was commonly used in legal and commercial contexts, or in given the legalities here, we're talking about a covenant as well. You could throw a covenant in with that.
Sure, which goes along because when you covenant to keep his laws, that means you're gonna do them. I know that's a dirty word, but
Yeah. Exactly. To refer
wait a
to
minute. As in, since you brought up James 2 earlier, let me say this: be a doer and not deceiving yourselves.
be a doer of the word, not a hearer only, deceiving yourselves. For he who hears only sees his reflection in the mirror and then goes on his way.
Yeah. So, anyways,
And it does him no good.
actually, it does them bad.
Yeah. Well, in James's little thing, it does them and nobody else any good, because James, I do think that James, the brother of Yeshua, was an optimist. Bless him. And
Uh,
chose to focus on the positive aspects.
okay, and sure. I can see that. And with him being, the head bishop of the church, he's trying to counsel the church, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
but you are right. It does do you bad if if you hear the word and don't do it.
sure. Yeah. And I mean, everybody has their preferred way of doing some things.
Just like if you take out the loan and don't pay it. Yes, that will do you bad, very bad.
Yes. Well, and then sinning to a certain extent is taking out a loan, right?
Well, the
So,
facts of the matter are Christianity is has taken out so many loans on grace that they are bankrupt. They
mhm.
are morally bankrupt.
Yeah, and so they need someone that's willing to pay their loan for them. Oh, I know who that is. It's Yeshua. If you come to him sincerely. But anyways.
Right. Right. He's willing to pay the loan, but you have to, he's willing to pay the loan, but you have to come under his covering, which means that because you're under his covering, you're in his house. And because you're in his house, you have to live by his house rules.
Right. And being in his house is why he can take care of it. Because
Right.
otherwise he can't. And that's according to Torah.
Yep.
So
So there we go. The term reflects the practical and often public nature of such affairs. Uh, and technically, when Torah is both practical and very public.
Yes. Yes, it is.
which were integral to social and economic life of the time. Torah is integral to the social and economic life of Zion. If you say that you're all about building Zion and you don't study Torah, then you're lying.
Yeah, and in fact, to add to that, the reason why everybody in Torah is going to see things the same way is because they're all going to agree with Torah,
Mm-hmm.
which is Yahweh's ways.
Right. So, understanding pragma in its historical context helps illuminate its use in the New Testament, where it often pertains to issues of conduct and responsibility within the Christian community. Oh, wait a minute. That was governed by Torah.
What? That's a T word.
I
Sorry.
know.
It is for some people as a swear word, but it's not for me. I'm making fun of it. So,
And it's also it's a cognate word studies cognate pragma properly the habit needed to accomplish what is necessary. Everything about pragma points to Torah.
right. As and to be specific, to go with the definition of faith of doing, it's just Torah tells us how Yahweh wants us to do things.
Yeah,
Right.
the habit needed to accomplish what is necessary.
Yeah.
What
So,
that is a beautiful concept.
yeah.
To
Well,
actually get doing what is right, almost down to muscle memory.
yeah. So let's go look at Ether 12 for a minute. That goes along with that. Um, it's a good chapter for that, right?
Yeah, yeah. You get doing what's right down to muscle memory.
Yeah. So, Ether 12 doesn't say that, and so I do agree with that. That's why you practice. So you just start doing it automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Let me make that bigger because you guys probably aren't gonna like that. Get hit the right button.
I love it, but I just can't read it.
Okay, good point. Because you kind of remember what's there, right? Just kind of.
Right.
Um, Zach, will you? Let's see. What's the verse I actually want? All right, let me pause to find the specific verse, so we're not just reading lots of stuff. All right, so I found the one I want. Zach, are you willing to read that for us? It's Ether 12:4, and it goes along with what Ben was just saying, okay?
Or for whoso believe in the Elohim or God might with surety hope for a better world, yea, even a place at the right hand of Elohim, which hope cometh of faith, maketh an anchor for the souls of men, which would make them sure and steadfast, always abounding in good works, being led to glorify God.
Okay, so here's something really interesting. Wherefore he whoso believeth in Elohim might with surety hope for a better world, yea, even a place at the right hand of Elohim.
I know what that is.
Those who do Torah can hope to wield his power.
Uh, yes. I also will say it's Zion because making a place a better world, and
Yeah,
that's where they can be
but
next.
the
But yeah,
place at the place at the right hand, at the right hand of God is you have. He's given you the right hand is the hand of power.
correct. The right hand is having the same power as Yahweh, um, but uh, I do also believe the place at his right hand, and Zion's going to have the power of God with him. So I do agree with you, but I think, and this is me, I think more specifically is talking about Zion.
I
But,
I I mean I can definitely see that, especially with the explanation you gave me. Um,
but it is because of what you're bringing out, though. In addition to that, it can only happen because the world's going to want to try to destroy Zion. It needs the power of God to be with it, or them, or however you want to say it. Right?
yeah.
People. But anyways, um, but yeah. Zion will have the power of God with it.
Whoso believeth in God might with surety hope for a better world, Zion, yea, even a place at the right hand of God. You may hope you may hope as a reward to receive as a reward for your good works to receive his power. Which hope cometh of faith. Faith is, as we're covering in this translation of Hebrews 11:1, faith is trust and diligence. Faith is trust in the promises shown by our keeping our end.
Yes, and one thing I want to add to this is hope cometh of faith. As your faith grows in Yahweh, what your hope for grows also.
Yes.
Because you start seeing the promises and you're actually starting to want them.
Mm-hmm.
Have faith.
Those promises make an anchor to the souls of men. Now, anybody who thinks that an anchor is something that just keeps somebody from going anywhere, those who've been at sea know that an anchor is their best friend in a storm.
Yeah, it's to keep you firm in the same place, right? As in not to wandering off in strange paths.
Yeah, you're if you've got your anchor in firmly into the bottom, you're not going to get you're far less likely to get swept up on the rocks in a storm. Which would make them sure and steadfast, always abounding in good works. Good works are defined in the mind and will of Yeshua. They're defined in Torah.
Yeah, and it's basically righteousness, holiness, right?
Why was Torah given to Israel? So that they could show God's wisdom in their actions and glorify Elohim.
Correct. In glorifying him as in showing other people's God wisdom and them
Yes.
and them just glorifying Yahweh because they see how his wisdom is glorious. It
Yes.
makes things it makes society good
Mhm.
and peaceful, like real peace, not this pretend peace that the world has. So,
And that pretend peace is going to go away very soon.
yes, because of the second coming. So,
Uh,
uh,
in the while we're waiting, the thing is that there will be a place of peace, even in the midst of the persecutions, because as it was stated in Revelation, the lady and that the woman was taken into the wilderness and was there kept.
yeah. So, Revelations 12 is interesting because there's some stuff in there. I believe, brings out it's partly started with Adam's time. So I don't think it's just specific end times.
I do think that one is actually a reference to Zion and the New Jerusalem, which is where
Sure.
Israel.
Anyways, Revelations 12 is an interesting one. Um, eh, and like the man child is Yeshua, and he was born
Right,
long before the second coming, uh,
right.
1,000 years, give or take. But anyways,
Yes, and he was caught up into heaven, and then the woman was taken to her place in the wilderness.
um, except there's some parts later in the chapter that talks about even before he was born. So
Yeah,
it's an
it's a
interesting
hodgepodge.
chapter.
It's a hodgepodge. It's just I see a reference to Zion in it. You don't
I see a possibility of it. I'm not
you don't have to agree with me.
Yeah, I see the possibility. I'm not completely sure because of other things, and it's not one I spend tons of time thinking about. So, yeah. Anyways, so shall we go back to Hebrews 11?
Hebrews 11, sure. I think that's probably a great idea.
Because we're not done yet. Um,
So
so
what we're showing here is that this is actually, it's not just things. That's a real shorthand way of translating that word.
correct. Um, so one thing I want to bring out, evidence is not really controversial because you can see it's even in the King James rendition of it. And but it's not in this interlinear. I think that's the one that they put conviction.
Yes,
So I can somewhat understand that, but considering some of the other aspects, I don't believe conviction is the best term.
except the conviction is actually a part of the definition of assurance.
Right, so they're doubling up a little bit. Now, along this line, before we continue, I will admit I put a faith here when there is not one in the Greek, okay? Now,
Yeah,
but it is the subject. But you go look at the King James, they just a things and a things. And you can see in the interlinear, there's really only one justification for things.
right,
Here, it's in square brackets, glyphs, showing there's no justification for it other than to make the English good.
right.
And so that I will admit that is what I did with the second faith, but it is the subject of the sentence, and so I'm just making the sentence sound good in normal English. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Um, and then the what cannot be seen. Okay. So this part, the be seen should not be controversial, because right there.
Mhm.
Here they have it being seen, but the definition actually says to see. But I mean, if you're squawking over that, yeah,
Yeah, that's it's not a you have other problems, and I'm afraid I can't help you.
right. And there's the not that's in here in the interlinear, and I just put cannot to
Right.
make it fit in English better,
Make
right?
it fit modern English.
Yeah, modern English better. Um, but the idea of the not is there.
So,
So,
so the point is that our faith and our words can be heard, but they can't be seen. Our faith can't be seen, but we can see our faith in our deeds.
well, and I'll put it another way: our the evidence of our faith can be seen in our deeds.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, if you're able, can you read this translation I did of Hebrews 11:1 in summary for us, real quick?
Sure. Now, faith is hope, belief that becomes assurance, full trust and confidence, with deeds, which is evidence of faith that cannot be seen.
Yeah. Um, I have showed a few people this before this recording, though it's people I interact a lot with, so they might be somewhat biased, but they have told me that really makes that verse make a lot more sense, and I hope it does for everybody else.
And it actually walks hand in hand with the definition of faith that is shared time and again throughout the scriptures.
Correct. Now, I will be honest here. This translation is based upon what I believe faith is. So I will admit I'm being biased. Now, the question is, have I shown support for my bias? Because all translations are biases, right? The question is, are they
Which
valid?
is why I say a translation is only as strong as the translator.
Correct. And that's why you got to be careful with translations because Purposely or not, translators are putting their theology.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's pause for a second.